From chillin' to feelin'.
That was a good one. Maybe one of the best I've ever had.
Here's how it started. Just easing into it, not getting too crazy. And here I decide to go a little faster.
Man, that was a good one. Maybe one of the best I've ever had.
So yeah, there you go. There is my hugest crash to date, and definitely the worst injury I think I've ever had. I've never even broken a bone before this, and I wasn't feeling too bad about all this until I looked at the x-ray this morning, and then I kind of freaked out a little bit, honestly. Also, this was the first ride in my new sponsor's gear, Loki. I was gonna go up to Snowmass and rip some laps and, post some awesome footage and some shots of me in my Loki gear and just be all cool. And instead, over the bars, broken collarbone. Big shout out to Aspen Snowmass and the staff there. They were awesome. I actually rode the rest of the trail, and I actually rode all the way down to the bottom when I could have taken the gondola at the midpoint, but I was kind of like, well, I just didn't want to fuss over it. I thought I'll just ride down. And the doctor at the clinic at Snowmass said that one, that was impressive, and two, I shouldn't have done it. As I was poking down, and one of the bike patrol guys saw me and noticed that I didn't seem right, and he stopped me, and he's like, if you want, there's a clinic right here, literally at the bottom of the gondola, and they can take a look at it and do some x-rays. So I went there, and they were great. They did the x-rays, and they're like, yeah, you're gonna need to see an ortho next week. So here I am. It did, not only did it do my shoulder, it did the GoPro. I don't know if you can see, but it smashed the screen. And that's why I didn't record the rest of the ride down, is because the GoPro got smashed, and it also broke the mount off the top of the helmet. So that was great. And I just kind of wanted to, I was like, why did I crash? I watched that, footage 10 times thinking, what made me crash? That's such a, not gnarly section of that trail. You'd think if I was going to crash, I would have crashed on some of the gnarly, steep, chunky parts. And I had a crash like this in the Grand Enduro race in May, where I was just kind of on a slope that wasn't super steep, and it was also rock, and I just went over the bars. And I watched that footage like 10 times thinking, what made me crash? I couldn't explain it. And I just was like, well, whatever, crazy things happen. But when this happened, first thing I thought of was, man, this is just like that crash I had in the Grand Enduro. And I think I finally figured out why it happened. So I changed springs on my rear shock because I wanted to see what a softer setup would be like. So I put a smaller spring on it, and it seemed like really squishy. And I thought, well, you know, this is probably a little too squishy. And I thought, yeah, I'll go back to the firmer spring, you know, at some point. And so what was happening is when you go down a hill like that, it creeps down in the suspension. And because the spring really isn't strong enough, it doesn't reset, it doesn't rebound enough. And if you're just going over bumps, it's not as noticeable. You just kind of bottom out every once in a while, but you don't creep down like that. So when you go down there and it's a compression, the suspension creeps down until it bottoms out essentially. And then what happens is then when you hit a bump, it kicks the back end up. And if you're already kind of tilted, when it kicks the back end up, it basically throws you over the bars. So I guess that's my consolation in all this, is it wasn't my bad riding that made me crash. It was my bad suspension setup. And it's so crazy because I had been meaning to put the firmer spring back on forever. I just was too lazy or whatever to be bothered with it. So that's probably why I broke my collarbone, is because I didn't put the firmer spring back on. And so live and learn, live and learn.